Hello and welcome to the Curious Mind of Raquel. I wanted to share with you a few things before we get on with the video, and that is hopefully in the near future we will, I will plan to have a more pretty background, but I wanted to get this video out in order to allow for my patrons to utilize the particular video and what we're going to talk about today. Now, I think I may distribute this on to the YouTube channel as well for the public viewing, just to see if we can create more of people coming aboard the Patreon. So that is something that I will do, but I also plan to have a separate episode, strictly patrons only, that, pay for the, subscribe wall. But anyway, I hope that you can hear me really, really well. And I know that it's a bit dark, but that's my entire aesthetic. And what I wanted to talk about was, as many of you know, and if you do not know, the reason for I had put on my community tab in my YouTube channel, I had put a little, typed up a little post about why I had to once again unpublish my videos. Now, if you are on my Patreon, you know the reason why, which it's something that cannot be spoken of as of yet, but you will come to understand why I had to do it in future. Okay, so what I wanted to talk about is manifesting. Now, oftentimes, no, in particular, now I want to do a little background story because I think that is vital and it's very important to share with you how I've come to have the knowledge behind the things that I talk about in comparison to what other people on the YouTube channel, on the other public YouTube channels that also talk about law of assumption, law of attraction, which I've kind of steered away from a bit, and the different things in accordance to manifesting your dreams and desires, because I think there's lots of hogwash out there, and obviously life is a bit of a roller coaster because we're always trying to figure out things and try to understand what we need as far as the advanced information in how to continually progress and expand as humans, right? So a little background story is, during my beginning of my transformation, and if you read my blog and you're an avid reader, you can learn nearly everything there is to know about me really as a person. So that's often why I write the stuff down. And I've also spoken to you, if you're on my Instagram, if you follow me on my Instagram, because that's my only social media. Obviously I do have the YouTube, but it's very restricted and there's not very many videos up any longer, because I've unlisted those and put them on private for the time being. But my progress and my transformation has been long. And I've been studying mindset work since I was probably 17 years old, maybe 15, 17 years old. And it started to entirely increase when I filed for divorce from my ex-mate. And a year prior to me filing for divorce, I had taken on and begun this transformation. And that was in the year 2014. So an entire year before I divorced my ex-mate, and have it be known that I am the one that did and proceeded with the divorce, despite what you've heard, particularly from other people. I'm the one that got the divorce. And anyway, but you know that if you've read my blog. So prior to that, me filing for divorce, I had begun my transformation, and because I was really, really distraught about so many things in my life, like I couldn't understand. And I gave a blog post on this, I think last week, maybe Thursday or Friday. So if you want to go back, or maybe, you know what I'll do, I'll put it in the description, the link in the description box about that particular blog post, because it's very long. It's about 3,000 words. So I was really, really seeking out things because I couldn't understand why, as a person that had lived, two separate religions, but my entire life, why I could not be happy, why I was becoming more miserable as the years increased. And it was just confounding to me, like I couldn't understand it. So I really, really became determined to go within myself and figure out, the key answers to things that in my life that were perplexing to me. So I feel that obviously we're all on journeys and voyages that will be our entire lifelong experiences, right? We're always learning and growing. But I know, confidently I can say that I have figured out things as I figured out immense details to what creates a person being happy. And so hopefully we'll go on through this entire series, and I'll have many more videos on the Patreon, and some I will distribute on the YouTube channel publicly, because I think the information is very, very important, and I want everyone to know so that they can lead themselves into their own destination and fulfilling their dreams and desires. So what I thought I would do is share the way that I manifest. Now, there's many aspects to when you manifest, because Jeffrey Sean and I were talking about this, and I was telling him yesterday that I said, for a long time, I wanted to learn about manifesting, although we've been manifesting, every human being manifests. So do not be under the illusion that you can't manifest or that you don't know how to do it, because you do. You just don't maybe articulately know how to, or specifically know as a conscious creator, right, to manifest. You're always manifesting. You will always manifest according to what you assume life to be. So your thoughts create your reality, and I've shared that many, many times. So, but there's a difference in consciously creating the desires that you want to manifest or demonstrate, because I like the word demonstrate, because manifest seems to be so thrown around so much, but I guess it's not a bad word. It's in the Bible, like 76 times or something. But so I will interchangeably use those two, and I'll also do that in my book, The Little Mermaid's Transformational Tale, which will have loads and loads of things about manifesting and demonstrating your desires. So I thought it would be fun to narrow it down and basically give you sort of like a checkoff sheet, which will make it very beneficial and very easy for everyone to understand. So I call it the 4-act play to manifest or demonstrate any desire that you want. And these are all the essential keys to being a conscious creator and manifesting anything you desire. What becomes the trick is the little in-between things, which you will soon recognize when you begin doing this yourself, because that's what I want you to do. Is I want you to take ownership of your reality and know that you are the manifester, that there's nothing you can't do, be, or have. And so if you have the tools and you've got the treasure chest, pearls of wisdom to do that, there's nothing keeping you from anything you want. There's no limitations, none whatsoever. The only limitation that we ever have is the one we place upon ourselves through our beliefs. Now that will be an entire another video about our belief system, the subconscious and the conscious mind, which will be very beneficial in helping people to understand why we repeat cycles and how to stop doing that. Say for instance, I had the repeating cycle of no matter how many years I went through trying to understand why I kept having difficulties with keeping and sustaining. It wasn't a problem to ever have or start up a friendship with a woman, but the sustaining the friendship and it not going awry was always my issue. And until I understood the subconscious beliefs that I had about women, which stemmed from my circumstances as a child and the trauma that entailed that with my mother and other significant female women role models in my life, and created that negative connotation towards women that I was subconsciously repeating through my conscious life, those same behaviors, because it was the belief. So we have to go in and change the assumptions and beliefs that we have from a subconscious level. Then we will actively, consciously, without even our awareness, we will create a new world. You know, we will see things differently. I don't see women at all the way that I used to see women, at all. It used to trigger me. Like I would get upset if I saw something or someone was doing something, and it kind of like rubbed against my wound, you know, then that would create this whole thing, and I would spiral, and it would, all of a sudden, it would go awry again. Anyway, so we'll get into another video on that. So the 4-act play of manifesting whatever you desire. So I wrote my little note, so I might have to look down a bit. But okay, so the 4-act play is based on the producer, the author, the director, and the actor. Okay, so the producer is the person. So this is the analogy I want you. So you might want to write that down. So I want you to write down number 1. So a 4-act play to manifesting anything you desire, and I'll label that the video. And I'll do a little, you know, a couple little notes on the thing too, where you can, I'll timestamp the places where I begin to talk about that. And so I want you to write that down. Number 1 would be the producer, okay? Then the second one is the author. The third one is the director. Fourth one is the actor. Okay, so did you like that? Actor. So the producer, the only job for the producer to do, okay, this is you. We're all these 4-act play participants. We are the one, because we're the god, mermaid goddess of our reality. So we're the ones enacting all of this, okay? So the producer aspect of ourselves, okay, the one dimension of ourselves is the director. The producer. I can't even keep my own stuff right? No, just teasing. But the producer is the one that creates the wish. Now, the wish is, and I'll give you an example, okay? The wish is simply stated. There's nothing but the wish. And that is whatever you desire to have. So say, for instance, you say, I would be, okay, so I'm playing the producer right in this moment. I would say, I desire to have a beautiful cottage, okay? Or forever home. Let's say that, because that's very simplistic. It's not giving me a lot of detail. It's not saying the kind of house. So if I said, I desire my dream home, okay? That's the only job the producer is to do. Step number 2 is the author, okay? The author is going to specifically, in detail, to the last aspect of it, will create from beginning to end in our imagination, because now we're the author, okay? The first one was the producer. Create the wish. What is the wish? Simple. Second one is the author. Create, you go off of the wish, but you're going to now specify with distinction. So I would say, for instance, this is exactly what I did. I desire a dream home, my forever home, the home that I just absolutely want forever. I don't ever want to move, because that was my biggest thing. I was tired of moving around. You know, in my marriage previous to Jeffrey Sean, I was married for 25 years. We moved 21 times. So that tells you it is entirely, with 4 children, 2 dogs, I was over it. I was tired of it. And furthermore, it wasn't the homes that I ever wanted to live in. The homes I wanted to always live in was the old-fashioned homes. And because I wasn't the breadwinner, I always lost out on that, you know, feeling, although now I look back and I'm like, I should have been the one that was like the queen of the castle and pick every home, because I'm the one that lived there and stayed there and nurtured the children all the time. That was my base, my mothership, you know what I mean? So anyway, okay, so number 2, we're going to do the author. The author is, you're going to detail it specifically. So if this was me and I was saying, for example, because this is exactly what I did, okay, I want my dream home, my forever home, and I never want to have to leave there. I want it to be a cottage, not just a cottage, but I want a stone cottage. I want it to be limestone or flagstone. So I would say that, like limestone or flagstone, preferably limestone, because I live in Florida. Limestone is a key stone in our, you know, the foundation of Florida. I want it to have a thatched roof, like a real authentic Somerset English style thatched roof. I want it to be Victorian. I want it to have all the beautiful things. I want it to have pretty landscaping. I want to live on lots of acreage, not just like a plot or a quarter of an acre. Like, you need to be specific. There's no reason, there's nothing keeping you from your imagination, because the goddess within you is your human, wonderful imagination. That is what God is. Your imagination. It creates everything. The imagination creates everything. So you be specific. If you want, whatever you can conjure up to think in your mind, like, I know that I want this. I want a dirt path going all, because that was another one. I said, I want to be able to drive down a long dirt road or a windy road, and then that's where my house is, my little stone cottage at the end of this footpath. I want to be able to have loads of acreage. I want my cottage to be out with a stone wall like they had in Europe. I wanted it to look English. I want everything in my cottage to be like from England or shipped over on a ship, you know. I want the old antique doors, the old doorknobs. I want the beams on the ceiling. I want the light fixtures Victorian. I want the kitchen to have an old stove. That's what I'm trying to tell you, is be so specific that it feels as if like I'm creating this in my mind as we speak. Like, the more that I say that. Now, what happens with imagination, if you can keep pure thoughts for 17 seconds, that will build on itself. So did you know that 17 seconds can build, and within 3 minutes, you can create the momentum in this universe, because it's energetic, right? And this is a fact, of things that would take someone like 10 years, 20 years, 20,000 man work hours. If you can keep positive, pure thought about what you desire for longer than 17 seconds and let that build on each other without having any negative things come in, you're just dreaming, you're thinking, you're creating. You're like, what kind of wallpaper would I want? Oh my God, what kind of vehicle would I drive up at my cottage? I'm just telling you, be so specific, and it gets fun, because no one can keep you from your thoughts, right? No one can keep you from them. So you can create anything that you desire. No one can stop you from thinking of it. No one. And so that's what makes it so lovely. So that's what the author does, okay? And then by the time you're done with dreaming up this, you're almost going to feel like you've realized this, like, this is tangible. I could literally, through the universal laws of making magic happen, right? Because we're 3-dimensional in our mortal body. The 4th dimensional aspect of ourself, which people call spirit, God, like the universal sources, collective consciousness, whatever you call God or deem to be God, Father. There's so many things, okay? No one's wrong. Whatever you believe that's like, hey, I'm talking to the 4th dimension Raquel up there, which is also Sawyer and all these lovely people that have the capacity to move mountains. That's a metaphor, but you know what I'm saying? Like, because I tangibly cannot get my desire. It has to be the people working behind the scenes. You know what I mean? The 4th dimension self, the higher aspect of Raquel, to get these things, because I can't orchestrate it. That's what the beautiful serendipitous things about the universe are. So that's the fun thing. Okay, so we've got the producer. Now we've talked about the author. Now we're going to talk about the director. Now the director, which is the aspect of ourselves, this is the 3rd aspect of ourselves, okay, in the play, is to direct the author, okay? So the director is the one that will keep the actor focused, directed. Always, if they kind of go, like, if I had a moment that I thought, well, what about okay, do you see what I'm saying? What about the money? Oh, what if my husband doesn't agree with that? So the director's job, which is the aspect of you, is to align yourself with direct laser focus. So what I will caveat and tell you, or pivot and tell you, is that this will be the most difficult thing to get through on some of the things if we possess resistance to them, okay? So resistance would be anything that is going to redirect your attention away from that dream that you were just talking about, the specifics. Because if you allow, like, well, how's the money that's not your job. Your job is not to house the money. There's no possible. My husband, we can't possibly move there. So-and-so would never agree. I don't believe there's something that exists that way. That is not your job. Keep your mind and your nose out of that business. That's the collective consciousness business. That's the universe's business. That's spirit's business, okay? Your job, this is what keeps people from their manifestations. This is the number one killer of dreams, okay? That we allow the focused, because we're fickle humans. We are constantly distracted. And most of the time, if we do not have a good foundational belief system that's all encompassing with positivity and you can achieve anything you desire and all you have to do is believe in it, not many people were raised that way. We were raised with loads and loads of resistance. Like, you can't be that. You can't be an artist. You've got to work hard by the sweat of your brow, you know, like, oh no, that's never going to work for you. So if you can keep your nose focused, I mean, I'm saying that this is like, I think about this when I was a mermaid, okay? So when I would perform underwater, I had to massively stay focused, because if I let out too much air, not enough. If I looked at the massive alligator that was behind me while I was performing and started to get panicked or scared, I would mess up the entire show for the other 6 girls that were swimming right next to me. So you've got to stay focused, and that is what will be the trick, okay? It was for me anyway. Maybe you'll be really, really easily, just as everyone. Some people can manifest some things really, really easy. Some people struggle with bigger things or smaller things or different things. You know what I'm saying? Like, one might struggle with having the confidence to, you know, make $1 million, or one person might struggle to believe that they could ever find the love of their lives, or one might struggle, but then you're probably really good in other areas that maybe this particular person's like, I'm not very good in that area, but I can get good in it, because there's nothing you can't do. There's absolutely nothing you can't do. And what I've noticed on the computer is that there's so many people that are teaching the law of attraction, even like the Abraham Hicks and you know, the lady that wrote The Secret, which was kind of like a thievery of the law of attraction, Abraham Hicks stuff, is that there's still limitations, that there's always, you know, you're waiting on this universal force to do it. No, there's no waiting, because you're God. And when we can realize, that's a very scary thing for oftentimes people that are, you know, encompassed in religion and growing up that way. That is a very alienating kind of thing to think about, because you're like, no, I don't know if I could believe that, because that's a little terrifying, you know. But if you can believe it, that there's nothing that limits you, it's only your imagination that's limiting you, or the beliefs that you've had since you were a wee little girl, you know, or boy, and that's keeping you from it. So I know I kind of go into detail in each one of these sections, because I think it's important, because I know that when I was trying to figure out these kind of things on my own, these are the things that came up, like what's causing a person to be distracted. It's very difficult when you have belief systems in place that you've always been taught that you can only get that if you work, you know, 20 years, or you can only have that, like, you're not talented in that way. Like, you can create your own talents. You could, I mean, there's nothing you can't do. If you believe you could do it, and you really, really believe that, you can do it. The only thing that keeps us, once again, from it is the belief that, and I'll give you an example, that my mom struggled with what do you call it when you're like sugar levels or something, like, we were talking about diabetics or something, and she says, you know what I don't understand is your Aunt Diane eats so much sugar, and like, she's not diabetic or anything, and like, I don't understand, like, I can't eat, but one candy bar, and I'm just like, my senses are going crazy, and I just have such problems and outbreaks and everything, and I don't understand it, because I read on the computer that it's all about like the sugar is like creating this, infestation of making your, different things go off in your body and everything. And I said, yeah, that's because my Aunt Diane doesn't believe that. She believes that she could eat 5 pounds of sugar and it has no effect on her. Her belief is exactly that. So why does she not have any effect on her? And she doesn't have diabetes because she doesn't believe that she can get diabetes by eating sugar. And it's just like because that is her belief system. But my mom's belief system is, if I eat one bit of candy, it's going to be terrible, So is it terrible? Yes, because everything is a law of assumption. Everything you assume to be true for your reality reflects back to you. It has to reflect back to you. It's physics. It's universal law. You can't get away from it. It just is, It's like gravity. It just is. So what do you have to do? Change the belief so that you see something differently. It will reflect back to you the thing that you now believe. So I told her, I said, why don't you try it? Why don't you say, I can eat so much sugar? And you create that belief. I mean, she would need to do it and listen to it every night, but she could manifest that new desire. I could give you so many instances, so many examples to where those things are changing drastically when you just create a new belief. And it's not that hard. Like everybody makes it sound like it's like, oh, it's so difficult to figure out the universe. Like, no, it's not. I mean, it took a bit of time for me, but I did it, whatever. Anyway, okay, so number 4 is the actor. This is what the actor does, is to master basically the script. Master that vision that you have, and you play it over and over and over and over in your mind. Now, I will give you an example because I know it's getting kind of dark in here. I've got the kerosene lamps. Is that better? Should I turn that up? But it flicks like that. Is that good? Is that better? Should I do it? Is that going to drive you bananas? Because it does look a bit flickery, doesn't it? Anyway, I'm trying to help you anyway. But here's an example. Is playing it over and over again. Okay. So often you do hear people say, well, how do you get really, really good at that? Like me, and I'll just give the example. Now, I'm not saying that I'm, a pro. I'm not like Keira Knightley as of yet, with my accent. But because it's basically like I'm rehearsing. And in rehearsal, you hear about actors and things like that, they do method acting, which means that they never come out of their character if they're playing a particular part or anything. So it's very kind of like, kind of blends in with this, what I'm talking about, the 4-act play, is that when they're learning or taking on research about a character, okay, that's sort of what I'm doing right now. You know what I mean? I'm like historically trying to play out like my characters and everything like that. But I always had the desire, like I always loved anybody that spoke English. And so I was like, but I never thought that like, well, what would be the reason for me doing that? And like, I never really thought about it, but I thought it was really, really neat, And then when I started doing research on, like, obviously the reason for my wanting to do the accent is because I wanted to do the narration and the audio for my books, for my children's books, and they're all 19th century in England, And so especially I was very, very protective of Sawyer's book, which, will be coming out. And I did not want another woman speaking reading my story. That was my healing thing from my son. And so I was like, no, because the more I kept doing research and I was trying to find someone, it's like, oh, I love her voice or whatnot. It just never rang true to me. And I'm like, you know what? Screw this. I'm like, this is bollocks. I'm doing this myself, because I felt like a detachment from it, and I did not like how that felt, because I'm very protective of this book, and I'm sure that it rings true because there's so much healing that took place in that book, and I want that to be felt by other people. And I know when mothers read this book, it actually makes me dewy-eyed right now thinking about it. But when little children read this book, they will feel the earnestness and the love from that book. And I believe it will be from my voice as well. So I have to really, really get good at this so that it will sound beautiful and it flows well. Well, because I've worked so hard, because I live in America, and it would be probably easier when you acclimate yourself to a different culture. You know what I mean? Like if I was in England, I probably would do it a lot better, and I would do it a lot quicker, and I would probably have more slang, or it would sound different probably, you know? I mean, just like I'm Southern, so you know, it's going to sound different than someone that was taking a course for an acting role or something, you know what I mean? But anyway, the point being is that after I practiced so hard, because I keep rehearsing, it started to take on, like I've been doing it nearly, I guess 2023 would be 3 years I've been doing it. So I started right around the pandemic, you know? And so I've literally worked so hard at it. Now, listen, that's not to say that I don't come in and out of it a bit, you know, I do, because I've not been doing it long. Think about how long it normally takes someone like a child or something like that. They can do it and learn it a lot easier because they're younger. But an adult, you know, 50 years, well, I was 47, nearly 48 when I started. It's a lot of work to train yourself. So then once you've trained yourself, like I was training myself, not to, I mean, just speaking that way all the time, not just on particular. I noticed what would happen if I came back from it and just started, you know, talking like my regular American accent. My jaw would get tired. My tongue gets a little bit roll because my tongue is doing different things, and it's sort of learning new muscle, you know, movement and everything. And so what would happen is if I try to go back to the American accent, which still does it, it takes me a little bit to get back into it, you know, and then it also causes my mouth gets really, really sore, and I'm like, I got headache, my jaws hurt, and I'm like, there's no reason why I can't talk this way. I mean, if someone asks me, I just always say, oh no, I was born in Georgia, you know, I just took a course, you know, because that's the truth. I'm not hiding from the truth. I'm not being anything. But this is also a demonstration that what culture and what the world tells us is that, you know, you can't do it. You're not allowed to do it. You know, you're allowed to speak Spanish or something like that. Or you're allowed to, like if I was going to Spain, like if I said, hey, I'm going to spend 6 months in France, I think I'm going to learn French. No one would bat an eye, you know what I mean? They would be like, oh, that's great, wonderful, lovely, you know what I mean? But when you say like, oh, I'm going to learn British English, you know, I mean, people like go bananas. They like lose their wits about them, you know? And I'm like, isn't that interesting that, is it because the people that are so outraged is because they wish they had the nerve to do it? That's quite a number. I mean, I've really been interested in that because some of my old foes, you know, I remember like they even put posts on their Instagram about, you know, people that are so, you know, try to be someone else or whatever. Is like, I can't even remember, because see, I can't even go there. I don't remember those people, like literally, and that sounds far-fetched, but some of my enemies, I can't even remember the names, you know, because I've created new beliefs. But I do recall there was this one gal, this one lass that she was, you know, went on Instagram, and you know, we had a friend in common, and she was like, I think she's talking about you, Raquel, you know, you're doing your British accent. And I'm like, yeah, that's unfortunate, because she, you know, it's probably because she probably wanted to do it too, and she just doesn't have enough guts to do it. Because it does take guts, because but not really. If you believe it takes guts, it takes guts. And, you know, then you think about the controversy that the Alec Baldwin wife, remember what's her name? Hilaria, or is her name Hillary, but she went by Hilaria. The only reason that people gave her gruff was because she was being false. She wasn't telling, she was lying. She was saying that I was all this stuff, and she really wasn't. But you know what? If she would have just came out and said, you know what? I just really, really love Spain, and I've spent so much time there. I want to name my kids. I'm really obsessed with it. I think it's wonderful, fabulous. I want to live there. I wish I could retire there, raise my children there. and that she has a fascination with it. And she says, so I want to be Spanish and I want to learn Spanish. People wouldn't have said anything to her. I really believe that. It's because she was untruthful and she was lying, because people do not take well to liars. Once you lie and then you keep going with a perpetual lie after lie upon lie, people will never trust you again. You will lose everyone that ever had any kind of belief in you if you're lying. Do not ever do that. I don't know what, this is not preaching session, but that was just my little take on that whole thing, because I remember that being like some kind of sensationalized issue in the news media, and I was like, oh, I'm taking my course too. It was like, that was interesting. But I really believe that was the only reason that they gave her such gruff, was because she was inauthentic. She was creating this story that was absolutely not true. Anyway, so again, number 4 is the actor, and you want to re-dramatize that over and over and over and over again, and you just keep playing out that same situation. And if you can keep doing it, you will take on the feeling of it being real. Now you're going to come back into your normal, like I would come back into my normal way of being. And that is the other trick, is that you live in a 3-dimensional world. So everything that you just conjured up in your imagination is wonderful and lovely. But the fourth dimension is the only one receiving that, okay? So you can't see it. You can't see that the things are starting to move, and the universe is going to start to have this person start doing this and do this and do this and orchestrating it for you. So your only job is to orchestrate it in your mind, in your imagination. You dream it up. Just like when we were little children. We had we did it with abandonment. We did not care. We just dreamt we were making mud pies, and we thought literally we were doing that, and we were like, I remember it. I'm sure you remember it. We would play house with dollies, and we created an entire scenario, and it was real to us. And that's exactly what you're going to do as an adult. You don't need to go and tell anyone. Don't tell anyone. It all needs to take place in your mind, and watch how it manifests. And if you want to try this on a smaller scale, like say you want to go, you know what, I wish for, so you do the 4 steps, right? The 4-act play. So do something small to try to test yourself and say, let's see if I can manifest a free cup of coffee. Now you could do it. You could say, I'm going to manifest, I want a Starbucks coffee, and I want it to be, I want someone to bring me a Starbucks coffee. And let's see, what specifics, how could we do that? Okay, because if we're being the author, right? Getting producer would be free coffee. But now we want to specify, because we're playing the author role. I would like a Starbucks coffee. I want it to be hot. I want it to be a pumpkin spice latte, medium. I want someone to give it to me free and me not have to ask for it. They're going to bring it to me just out of nowhere. And then I want you to keep playing that over in your mind, believe it, and then let it go. I seriously promise you, you are going to manifest that coffee. So then you do that, and then you just up the ante. You keep make it bigger, because there's no difference in manifesting a cup of coffee and a dream home. No difference. The only difference is the amount of resistance that we have placed upon ourselves, which we've done, and it's all right if we've done it, but we can get rid of that. And I'm going to teach you in the next video how you do that. How you get rid of all the negative beliefs that you don't want anymore, okay? And so I hope you love this. It was very, very fun to do it. I hope you like it. Tell me what you think in the comments, okay? Tell me if you have tried it, if you come back to the Patreon and you've tried it. I want you to tell me what you manifested. Now, this is all a protective community behind a paid wall, so we're all in this together. We all know what the jig is. So you don't have to be afraid or whatever, like to share, because we're all in this community together, and we all have one united reason for being in my community, our community. You know what I mean? Like we are those free thinkers and those autistic people, and we love law of assumptions and manifesting and all that. So it's all fun. We're all safe here. So I want you to believe that and know that to be true. And as always, I'm yours till my next swim. Cheers, darlings.